So to begin with, I think agenda for today's webinar is, like I was talking about it, there are four things we are going to address. The first is online market research in times of COVID-19. So why it is necessary and what we can do about it. Second is, can we do all kind of research in these times? Should we avoid doing certain kind of research and do some other kind of research? So second point we're going to address is what kind of business issues we can address in these times. Third one is getting a little more detail on our online approach, especially on qualitative. We'll go a little more detail because it's a little bit newer thing on online, and we have been doing quite a bit work on that. And then finally, some considerations or limitations you need to keep in mind while doing online research. Uh, and that I think holds not only for current times, but also any time. So let's start with that. So first, online market research in the current times. So as you know, I think many of you on the call or the webinar would already have done online research earlier. So it is not something which is something new. And like many other online things like online grocery, online learning, online uh, payment, many other online things, it's something which we already have, which some people of the population are already doing. However, as we know, COVID-19 has become a tipping point for many of these online and digital things. And in our opinion, going forward, uh, they would definitely increase in share in terms of usage, even if things come back to normal, and might become even mainstream as we go ahead. Even before COVID-19, online has been changing our lives in many ways. How we commuted changed from taxis and personal vehicles to quite a bit of Grabs and Gojeks of the world. How we entertained have moved back from TV to Netflix. How we shop has moved from, or how we communicate has changed. How we pay has moving to OVO and of the world and other ones, including GoPays and things like that. So, and many more ways. So it is not something new. However, COVID-19 has severely disrupted the consumer's life and confidence. So we have been doing many studies internally on COVID impact from a consumer perspective, from a business's perspective, and I think you must be getting those reports. If not, please let us know and we'll send across again. Uh, so according to our B2C COVID-19 impact surveys, wave 2, the level of impact on daily activity has been severe. So almost like 2/3 of them are saying that it has completely severely affected their day-to-day activities. Even rest of them are saying it's moderately affected. So at least no, there's hardly anybody who's not affected by this. And how much time they think they need to get back to normal, or world will get back to normal, or in this case Indonesia, they are confident that around 3 months time is what it'll take. So if today is, we are in April, then May, June, July, maybe around July, we should see normality coming as per consumer wisdom. If we look at another survey which we have been doing is the B2B survey. So this report also will be out soon, and I'll be sending across to all of you. Basically, according to organizations, the impact is even higher. So 74% of our organizations are saying that it has severely affected their activities. And if you see here, the number of months are also higher. So while consumers are thinking that in 3 months things will get back to normal, they are more optimistic than organizations, where from organization perspective, it takes even more. So, so these are the things which are affecting consumers' life right now, from organization as well as consumers' own perspective. And because of that, we have come to know of the social distancing as a word, which has become a key buzzword, and therefore it's making digital even more indispensable. In today's world, when we are confined to our houses, uh, really we can't live without digital. I can imagine if our Wi-Fi does not work for a day or so, what will happen to us. And therefore, it has led to further acceleration of digital usage. So how we are educating the children is changing. My children are on Zoom all the time. How we are buying groceries now, grocery buying through online is increasing significantly. How we eat restaurant food, obviously you cannot go to restaurants are closed, but they are moving more and more to online deliveries, and that is increasing again significantly. And similarly, in the similar line, according in our business also, obviously we are not able to do face to face, but we are increasing the number of online research we are doing, and across all companies it's happening. So if you're a company and you're not doing online research much, then you might need to rethink and say, should I move something to online, and not completely become don't get any information about your company, your brands, or your decisions which you're taking, and taking everything out of gut feel. So online research is again not something new, as I was telling, and we have been evangelizing this over couple of years since the company started. We have a brand called Survey Sensor, which is primarily focused on online, and not only online, which is basic online, which is a standard questionnaire we can send through links and to online panels or your own databases, or we can create communities, even social media. But we can also go deeper by looking at neuro-based online research, which includes webcam-based eye tracking, and I'll show later on some of them, or even real-time reporting and text analytics. Those are slightly more advanced analytics which we can do based on online research. So basically, the point is that we have all a lot of not clearly accessible. So in online, it's easy to access higher end consumers. That's very clear. Second is there's an increase of digital literacy, and consumers are becoming more savvier in terms of how to rate, how to fill surveys on their own, how to give feedback. And because of social media, commenting and feedback is not really something which is new to them. And with this, even lower SES consumers, and this question used to come quite a bit, can lower SES consumers fill a survey on their own? Obviously, they can. We have seen now even doing surveys with SESC and all that. However, we need to make sure that the questionnaire are mobile uh, friendly and easy to answer. Third important point is honest reviews. We get more honest reviews online than offline. Offline, there's always been an issue of gratitude. When you goes to somebody's house, he almost treats you as a guest. And they cannot say any bad words to you. If you go get somebody to a CLT, again the same thing. And there's always a element of gratitude. Online reduces or removes that gratitude and makes consumer more honest. And we have seen cases where we have done comparison between same study online and offline, and clearly found out that it's much easier to do online survey, much right answers we get. Though later on we'll come back to say how the norm changes. The norm changes online because usually the ratings are lower than offline ratings. So we cannot use the offline norms for online. Then we have cost and time effective. It's more cost and time effective, like most of the online things. So however, we need to it's more time effective. It works more on the time side rather than the cost side as of now. Cost side, there's some benefits, but till the time we get really very high level of penetrations and panel sizes Indonesia, it's more time effective because everybody can do at the same time the interviews, and things which can used to take like 4 weeks can be done in like 4 days. So that's the level of time efficiency we can see right now. So I would like now, this is the first section in terms of why it is important, COVID and online in terms of COVID. But I would like to ask you one question, and I will just do a poll and ask you to see on your screen and respond. So are you doing or planning to do online market research in the next 3 months? That's great. I think so. We have got around 70 odd votes, and we see that around 86. So that's good to know. So around 85%, 84% online, and that shows here. So then that takes us to the next section, which is, and this is a very important section in terms of what kind of business issues which we can address in these times using online and what you should not be doing. So in your regular times, our online caters to all your marketing needs, and we have been doing quite a bit of online even before things happened. So we can do from the very beginning, market understanding and opportunity identification. We have been doing UNA studies. However, you need to remember these are not like 1 hour UNAs. It has comes there in market performance, which is brand health tracking or dipsticks, or customer satisfaction in case of non-FMCG companies, right? And we can do all this qualitative, quantitative, and with neuro options. Now, that was all we can do. But what kind of market research you should or you should not do in these times? So let's look at it one by one. So in terms of market understanding and opportunity identification, first is what kind of research we should do is consumer sentiment monitoring. Now, this is something which you don't have to do yourself because most of the market research agencies are doing their own studies, and they are sending reports to you, including Neurosensor. So we have been sending you reports based on the studies we are doing, uh, and in Indonesia, and sending to you. And we'll be continuing to do that till the things settle down. However, impact of current usage and purchase behavior of your category, how is it changing? Should we adapt to it for short-term strategy actions? So we are doing some studies for some clients, which I cannot name here, but where we're trying to understand how's the usage and purchase behavior changing in time, especially purchase behavior, stocking. People might say they might need it and they need it for 100 things, and this whole all of these needs becomes irrelevant 3 months down the line. So you have to consider, even if you have subcategories, which subcategory you should research, which subcategory you should not research. And you should not be doing any update of your regular UNAs because the current times are not right to update your UNAs and check how things have been changing couple of years down the line. So hold on till you get till the times are right. Offer development and optimization. Again, I think pack test is something which we can do because consumers' response to a stimulus does not change with the time. So if I like a pack more than the other pack, it'll be the same, whether to the category which is, in the transition, health, hygiene, travel, which are changing right now, where people are not sure what's going to happen. Those things we do not, but most of the FMCG categories where the consumption is happening on a regular basis, people might be stocking and keeping, but consumption would be happening almost the same as regular. So those things we can do. Pricing test we should not do because people are extra price sensitive at the current times on some certain categories, and they might not want to pay more. Second is they might be willing to pay much more than others on certain categories, so because of the need. So again, it's very volatile in terms of pricing. And another thing we should not be doing is concept volumetrics, because concept volumetrics is something which it's concept volumetric depends, or the product volumetric studies basically depends on how people think or predict their future purchase. But in this case, currently consumers are in a dilemma and they exactly don't know how their future purchase is going to be in terms of volumes and frequencies and things like that. So most likely your volumetric will not work in the current situation. Uh, it's working, right, Sriram? Everything's okay?
Yeah, just a couple of interruptions. Fine, Mahesh. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. Then coming to the third part, which is communication development, what we should do, we should not do. I think we should not do any long-term ad development planning right now, because currently consumers' state of mind is not right. And if you ask them to think about how the ad should be for a certain category, they will always, add in the current COVID situations, which might not be valid 6 months down the line. However, what we should do is, if you have developed an ad which is pre-COVID, you need to check whether it is in line with consumers' expectation at this point of time. If you're airing, it might happen that you might air something which is which might affect the sentiments of the consumers, and they might not like it. Because many consumers are brands are changing their brand positioning, or how they are creating the ads more focused on live at home and social distancing and helping the poor. And we have another deck which I think we have sent to some of our clients, and we can send if you want, on how the different ways a brand can communicate in the current situation. And another thing you can do is, if you're trying to create a COVID-19 specific ad development and you have multiple options in your mind, and you want to check which options works better, that you can do for the the current situation which you want to air ad in next 1 month or 2 months or something like that. And finally, brand health tracking is something I think everybody should do. At least whoever is doing, even if you're not doing, they should do additional dipstick or something, because this whole thing has changed the way people are buying products, and they are uh, and the way brands are communicating. It's also changing the equity of the brands. So you need to be aware how it is changing your brand funnel. Is your awareness declining, especially spontaneous awareness? Is your trial increasing or declining in this current scenario? That will give you inputs for your people on ground, especially on FMCG categories which are not getting impacted. So it's very important to do brand health tracking. Customer satisfaction is also very important for clients who are non-FMCG. So especially for banks and any service provider, in the current situation of disruptions, are they able to deliver the services in the right way or not? If there have been disruptions, have they communicated in the right way or not? And it's important for people to not to switch to other brands, in the current situation, and that's why it's important for them to do. Now we just come to the second quiz. So as we talked about different kind of studies, quantitative. So which kind of online quantitative studies you are doing or plan to do in the next 3 months, which will give you idea of everybody in terms of what kind of thing works. Means there's a general need in the market. So I would again like you to go. I'll just publish the poll. Yeah. If you can quickly vote over it, I think we can get an idea. Yeah, so I think looking at the numbers, it looks like concept pack test is something top of the list. However, product test, ad test, brand health, and quite a bit of uh, need for almost all of these kind of things. But concept test, pack test is something on the top of the list, followed by product test. That's great to know. Now we go to the, while we have, after this, let's, I think, see a few questions, see if there are any questions which we want to address at this point of time. I think there's a question on, is this based on Indonesian study? I think the couple of slides which we showed. Yes, I think this is based on Indonesian study, and we have sent reports to our clients and our contacts. So if anybody wants to get hold of these studies, they can send a mail to me. Yes, we'll be mailing across the deck along with the recording in case you want to listen to it again. And one more question, final question on why we are not recommending creative or ad test. I'm not saying not recommending creative. I'm recommending not recommending creative or ad test development at this point of time. Trying to understand what kind of ads you want to develop for your strategy for rest of the year. Because currently the consumer's mind is completely biased with COVID-19 situation, and their response will be for ad for the current time. So if you want to make an ad for the next 3 months, I think you should do, but not something which is a long-term thematic ad for your long-term strategy. So unless you want to spend on 2 ads right now, and then, so right now we are telling many clients to go back to your previous ads, and I think Sriram is going to talk about it. Previous ads, and you can come back and kind of rework on some of your previous ads if required, rather than creating completely new ad as of now. I think final question I'll answer here is how biased the data can be while doing online surveys. I think there's always been a doubt about online data from a long time, but more and more we are doing it. We are realizing that it's no more biased than a face-to-face or offline surveys. In fact, in terms of decision making, we are finding that online surveys are much more authentic, and the data makes more sense. Because consumers are filling on their own the entire survey, and nobody is really, the money on online survey is not really so big that people can really make live lively out of it. It is more out of interest, it's more out of some additional fun and those kind of things people do, and therefore we end up getting right respondents and also right responses. And many clients is also good because online surveys are quite small, not really too large, and does not fatigue the consumers, and it's easy for them. So I think that's the thing I will take for now. I think we'll move to the next section, which is a little more detail on our approach on online research. Quantitative, I'll take through it, and then I'll move to Sriram, who can take through qualitative, which is going to be bulk part of the research. So quantitative online research is something which is more or less known to most people. The process for doing online is most of the online quantitative research is quite simple. So we get a brief, we make a proposal. Once the question is finalized, we make a link. We send the link to a client to approve. Which till this level, it's the same as offline. The only thing we do, we send the link to a database of people, online panel or our panel or secondary panels, and then basically once the panelist fills up the questionnaire, we analyze the data and send the report. So that's as simple as that. However, we, like one of the questions asked, this is for non-product evaluation, but how do we do product evaluation? So for product evaluation, we have a product called Product Sense, where we essentially break down the interviewer going to the respondent house to send the product. Instead of that, we use couriers, basically. So nowadays, couriers are quite prevalent with all the e-commerce, and deliveries of to the households are becoming normative. So we use online. We use couriers to send the product to the panelist home, and they get a link anyways with instructions on how to use the product. Even when we send the product, we can send an instruction sheet or a booklet along with the product in terms of how to use the product. And then they use the product and they fill up the link. And we have done multiple studies using this, and it works. And it works quite well, I would say. However, we have some limitation in this. We cannot really send them like 4 products or products. Ideally, one product we can send to them, and then it can be more than one products maximum, but it has to be very clearly demarcated and ask them to use one product in one day, another product few hours later or next day, and things like that. So that's what we do, and rest of the thing remains same. Only thing changes is we courier the product to the consumer's panel list. And we can obviously integrate online neuro. So online neuro is again very similar, very simple. It uses your webcam on the mobile or on the computer, and basically what it does is tracks your eyes, and it sees where you look at the screen, and also it looks at your facial expression to see when you're looking at certain things. Most facial expression is mostly used for ad testing, creative testing, where we see happiness. People are surprised, happy, curious, fear, thinking, sad, puzzled, etc. Again, there's no norms here that everybody has to be happy. It all depends on the ad. If you're making a humorous ad, then people should be more happy or fearful. And if you're making a very emotional ad, I think the sadness quotient need to be higher. So roughly, our norms is roughly depending upon what kind of ad you're making. We need to start with, okay, our ad should be more happy. Then we say at least 40% of your ad needs to be on the happy zone in terms of expressions, and especially in the right moments. And we can see, is your ad, clicking or is able to, drive that. Just quickly, a few things on eye tracking. So we can do eye tracking where people can see how people are, looking at packs, for example. It can be done on the shelving also, and which part of the pack people are looking at, and what is in the area, and therefore the right things can be put on those areas, and the pack can be designed. So this was an example of a client where they did this eye tracking to actually redesign a pack. And we have done several studies, including shelf, etc. Another study we did was, using understanding e-commerce behavior, how people are browsing the e-commerce. We took a lot of people, asked them to browse and check the behavior. So are they straight away going to the product? Are they searching for the brand? Are they searching for the sellers? Are they searching for the ratings, etc., etc.? And this gives us, instead of just asking, this gives a lot of behavioral data to understand and analyze, and it really helps much more than the normal stated questionnaires. In online, our panel coverage is quite high, so it's almost 1 million plus. And like earlier, they used to say that it's only limited to young people, in Jabo Database, on the higher SES. No longer. We see that it's almost like 17 cities we can cover. Top 9 cities, we can give you data by the cities. 15 to 55 we can cover easily, and across SES, and we can also cover lower SES in this case. So it's quite a mix of all kind of demographics. So that was about qualitative methodology. I will now pass on to Sriram. Before that, let me just quickly see if there's any questions, new questions. Okay, for eye tracking, can it be used on moving pictures? Sure, it can be used for moving pictures. In fact, it can be used on, like I think I showed the second thing. It can be used on the videos, it can be used on web browsing, etc. Eye tracking possible on mobile. We have been working on it. Largely, it is done on web. but we have been experimenting with mobile also, though it's not as accurate as web. So right now, I think we're sticking to web as much as possible. Does Neurosensum have online?
Mahesh, I'm conscious of time. Maybe we should separately answer questions through email, you know. Hello, everyone. My name is Sriram, as Mahesh introduced me earlier. I look after the qualitative business of Neurosensum. So what I'll do is I'll start with a little bit of perspective on why is online important for qualitative. It's very interesting in that, you know, online is much more and much more effective and interesting as compared to offline. If you think of regular focus group discussions or depth interviews, what one does is a moderator asks questions, consumers answer. If the moderator is really effective, then it can become a very dynamic conversation. But consumers are essentially coming to our venue, to our place of work, rather than we getting into their life. Offline Online qualitative research actually allows us to move into their lives and understand them in their real reality, in their context, and hence it's almost like a reality show. It allows us to not only speak to them but also listen to them. They have an opportunity to show what they're doing. They have an opportunity to present moments of consumption to us, and therefore it's a vastly more effective than regular offline. And online qualitative research is not new to the market research industry. It is a little unfamiliar to the Indonesian market, simply because most respondents in Indonesia are very willing to come to our offices to speak to us. But in most of the Western markets, that's not the case. Therefore, there in those markets, there has been a push towards online, whereas here we are sticking to the familiar territory. And I think now with this current situation, we are forced into also looking into the options of online qualitative work. But I feel it's a great place to be in, because it allows for us to really step out of our own offices and move into consumers' lives without actually stepping out physically. You know, while you're sitting at your desk, you can actually look in, understand the consumers' lives better. So it's like a reality show. It brings human stories to life, and therefore much more penetrative insights, effective insights. I'm going to walk you through five broad methods here. They span all the way from online groups to interviews to observations, ethnography, all the way up to workshops. What I'll do is walk you through each one of them in greater detail now, and also explain and demonstrate some of the work that we have done. But importantly, what we need to keep in mind is, how are we going to recruit these respondents for any kind of this interaction? I think at Neurosensum, and particularly here at Neurosensum, what we do is, we're not depending on only one type of recruitment. You know, we're not saying we'll recruit only through a panel. We're not saying we recruit only through a recruitment company. We use a host of methods. We use online panel recruitment. We use traditional means of recruitment, except that instead of a recruiter going door to door and using a questionnaire, screener questionnaire, we administer the screener questionnaire either on a phone or on any other platform, and make sure that the respondent is the right respondent. We can do back checks. We can ask them to take photographs of the products they're using, show evidence that they're the right respondents, right brand users, and we can do all of that. And quite a lot of rigor goes into actually recruiting consumers. All of that without actually physically meeting them. Now, having said that, there are other recruitment criteria that we need to comply with, because online is not the same as offline. A lot of people may not be necessarily conversant with technology. Therefore, sometimes we might have a filter on saying, you know, they should be comfortable working with technology, must have a smartphone, or even if they don't have one at home or they themselves don't use it, there has to be somebody at home who can assist and navigate them through the process. Sometimes We also encourage our own recruiters to go and tutor them on the phone. We do pilots ahead in advance so that the consumers themselves are comfortable working online. Okay, now having said that, I'll take you through each one of them in a little bit detail. This is the simplest one. It's called Discuss Sense, and that's basically a NeuroSensum terminology, a branding that we sort of adopted to refer to what we call as regular focus group discussion. Instead of regularly conducting at a venue, we're conducting it in online. So it's essentially virtual focus group discussion. And in order to do that, we use voice and video platform. All the respondents and the moderator come in, log in at the same time. Say at 10 o'clock in the morning, they are told to come into the platform, and the moderator also logs in. And then you speak to them. Yeah, you speak to them using voice. So they basically, it's like you're, right, all of you are working from home. I'm sure you're all doing online meetings. It's exactly the same situation. You're speaking to them. They can see us. Moderator can see them. You can look at the facial expressions. You can hear them. It's a proper discussion. It's like what you'd probably do even at work. And we're able to show stimulus. We're able to send links for advertisements. A number of things are possible, including recording of the conversation for later analysis. Now, this is a very simplest form of, basically, it's a replica of offline work or a focus group discussion. It's most suitable for actually any topic, but we recommend that we use it mostly for targeted conversations where deeper probing is required, and the moderator needs to be in control. The moderator wants to ask questions. We have to probe on certain responses, and moderator needs to be in control. And therefore, it's best for evaluative sessions. Some watchouts are that, just as the way we had in this particular meeting today, a couple of interruptions because of unstable internet speed. That's the same reality that we all face much more with our consumers, because they may or may not have stable internet. In that case, we do screening for a particular speed of internet. We make sure that if they don't have that speed, maybe we have to give them Pulsar. We have to buy them internet speed, or ask them to change the provider, or whatever that is. So those are things that we need to really take care of much more ahead before the actual fieldworks begins. We recommend that we do from laptops, but actually it's possible to do even through a smartphone. But laptop experience a much better experience. We recommend 4 respondents as opposed to usual 6 respondents, because then you're in a much more control. There are fewer variables to deal with. And as I said, a detailed briefing is extremely essential. Practice sessions are important, and at the end of it, we should be prepared to improvise, adapt, change. If a particular respondent is not speaking, we should be prepared to follow up with a interview call later on and things like that. So that's the first one, which is the simplest one. The second one, so before I go to the second one, I just wanted to demonstrate a particular study that we conducted recently. It's self-explanatory. Those who don't understand Bahasa can see subtitles.
Ini saya mau ngomongin soal nggak jauh-jauh soal makanan. Nah, awal nih kalau sebelum saya masuk ke diskusinya ya, kalau misalnya main-main kata deh, kalau saya sebutin Indonesia, mbaknya langsung kebayang apa ya? Macet. Polusi. Panas. Polusi. Terus banyak sampah. Banyak orang sibuk. Oke, sip. Nah, sekarang kalau berhubungan sama makanan, kalau saya sebutin kata cocolan yang langsung kebayang apa? Saus, kecap, mayonnaise, kecap, saus. Mbak, saus ini saus apa ya? Sambal, saus tomat, saus pedas, saus terasi, sambal terasi itu ya. Terasi, oke. Saus pedas itu saus apa, Mbak? Saus cabe. Oh, saus cabe. Iya, saus cabe.
Yeah, that was a quick word association game that you'd probably see in regular interviews or focus group discussions. Uh, so following that, what I'm going to show next is a little, again, from the same study. It was not limited to just speaking to them, but we also had them test products. This is just to give you a sense of the range of products they tested. This is a real study that we are currently doing. Okay, so that was the first offer. The second one is an in-depth interview, but online in-depth interview is exactly the same as what we said about focus group discussion, except that we are doing an interview as opposed to a group discussion. And why is an interview important is because we want to deeply probe, or because it's a particular study that requires speaking to people in private rather than in a group discussion. There are no geographical boundaries or limitations. We can actually use all of our eye tracking tools in this case, especially if you're doing advertising testing and all of that. This can be done online, just as the way Mahesh explained on quantitative. So what's useful for? It is best for concept and ad evaluation. You had said that these are the two areas where most of the work might happen in future. I recommend that you use the online qualitative for a concept and ad evaluation, because that's a perfect fit for it. In addition, if you're talking to experts, influencers, celebgrams, B2B consumers, all of this is perfectly suitable for online interviews. Finally, it's user experience is a big thing nowadays, and Neurosensum is doing a lot of work in that area. So if you want to try out a new application, new website, things like that, it's again, and customer experience studies or website experience studies, any of that is really good with this kind of methodology. Watchouts again are internet speeds and interruptions. So this is just on the current situation. A consumer who's sitting in Surabaya is speaking to us on COVID situation.
Menurutku ya Kak ya, kalau kayak orang-orang kita yang sekarang ya, kan di Surabaya kemarin masih ada tuh warung kopi apa-apa gitu kan. Terus orang-orangnya itu udah dibubarin polisi, udah pakai yang apa sih Kak, yang pembesar. Tapi masih nggak bangun, harus samperin ke meja. Ya menurutku ya kembali lagi ke orang masing-masing sih, harus lebih sadar juga gitu loh tentang bahayanya ini kan. Habis itu kalau pemerintah mungkin ya lebih diperhatiin lah ya. Jangan cuma pemerintah doang yang dipentingin gitu. Pentingin juga warga-warga yang lain, kayak Korea gitu kan, tes massal kan Kak, yang sehat sampai nggak sehat kan ini semua kan katanya. Itu menurutku bagus sih, tapi kalau kita mungkin pemerintahnya lebih bisa diperbaiki lah. Kalau aku kenapa positive thinking ya, soalnya kan ya kalau ke positive thinking nanti orang lain kalau ngobrol sama aku kan bisa nyebarin yang nggak baik gitu kan, dia bisa negative thinking juga sama aku.
You can see that she's been quite articulate, and the moderator had to really interject only a couple of times during the entire conversation. She was able to explain the whole experience. So that's how effective online interview is. You can see if the internet speed is good, you can actually watch her up close, and it's like doing any regular interview. The next one is called the online community. It's called the group sense. It's also referred to as bulletin board or chat session and things like that. It is exactly, imagine your Facebook discussion, when you're speaking to your friends or commenting on the posts. It's exactly mimics that sort of a situation, and it's a chat session as opposed to speaking. So you're not speaking directly or through voice, but you're actually typing. And as opposed to a regular group discussion, online discussion, which is limited for 2 hours, this can run for 3 to 5 days. On each day, consumer logs in for about 2 hours or 3 hours in a day, and then they do a variety of tasks and a number of conversations. They can answer questions. They can do polls. They can do mapping. It's vastly more versatile compared to a regular online virtual discussion. We can also include eye tracking feature here. This is best useful for understanding trends, cultural trends, exploring people themes like Indonesian millennials, beauty in Indonesia, the meaning of halal, all of that. Those kind of general topics are best conducted. You can also talk about some of the topics like depression and anxiety, sexual assaults and things like that, which probably people wouldn't be happy to conversing in real life. Watchouts are that this is a relatively more expensive as a offer. One, because we have to pay for the platform. The moderator has to relinquish control because you're posting questions, you're getting answers at different points in the day. People are logging in at different times, so the moderator is not so much in control. So the whole discussion develops organically. It's a much more natural rather than the moderator really guiding and facilitating this. So just a little example of what we did internally. You can see that here, this is a Neurosensum conversation. The moderator is posting questions in the morning. The first respondent has answered those questions. Then as you move forward, you'll see that those responses are being responded to by another respondent, and you can see a thread of conversation like that. And imagine this kind of conversation happening for 4 or 5 days, and you have a vast amount of data. You can also send links to advertisements. You can send statements for them to talk about. They can upload pictures. As you can see, she's uploaded pictures of hand wash and disinfectant and a mask. And they also can upload videos, which is what it'll come up shortly. Now you can see there's a video here. I'll not play the video, but you can see a video can be also shown to explain how things happen at home, or how consumption happens. So it's an extremely effective tool, and it can run for 3 to 5 days with more than even sometimes as big as 60 respondents at one time. Yeah, move forward into the next offer, which is continuing with the same offer. Beg your pardon. Continuing with the same offer. This also, you can do a lot of other things. As I said, you can do mapping, or picture sorting, which you would always do even in a regular discussion. All that is possible in this customized sort of platform. Then the next one is this is called Creative Sense, and it refers to co-creation session, where consumers become your co-creators of advertisement and ideas and concepts and things like that. Usually we recruit expert panel members or creative consumers or respondents of a special nature or super consumers, and we again conduct virtual workshops with them, and brainstorming ideas and advertisements and so on. Like, for example, you could brainstorm on an idea like dirt is good. So big ideas, creative expressions, things like that is best suitable for. The only watch out is the moderator is not in control. It requires very careful recruitment because they're all special consumers, and the client must be really fully involved in the entire process to get the best out of this. This is like a sequential recycling session, if you're all familiar with that kind of term. Example of one such co-creation where they created this chocolate with different flavors, and they were able to give it a name and a packaging format and things like that. Then the last one we have here is ethnography on mobile, where consumers are able to record moments from their life and send it to us. And so there's no question answer. They're actually showing parts of their life. It is observation, but sitting remotely. It's more suitable for understanding moments of consumption, situations, shopping habits, product tests as well. If a new concept, new product, you want to see how they test using it, recipes and things like this, that all of that is most possible. Watchouts are that it's not pure ethnography. It's more like an observation. Tasks have to be very simple and easy, and must have and we should always follow it up with an interview for richer insight. Example of one such observation here.
Ada sayur, ada ayamnya juga, ada jus, udah disiapin, kalau minum susu sama serealnya juga ada di sini. Itu aja sih paling, sama vitamin C mungkin.
Yeah, so this is a example of someone who's moved to nutritious food during this time, and this is another video of somebody who's taking precautions during the COVID situation. So they're able to really show how they're taking care and kind of measures they're following to protect themselves. All right. I'm conscious that we are running out of time. So, Mahesh, if it's okay, should we do this? Actually, we literally have only 2-3 minutes left. So, we must wrap up now because otherwise the webinar will stop automatically. Mahesh, are you there? Okay, I'll move on. We'll come back to the results later on. Just a few things to keep in mind is that the limitations of online we sort of talked about it in the previously. Target group has to be extremely simple and easy to find, especially in quant. SEC classification must be based on monthly household income. We cannot use complex criteria. Information areas and length of the interview has to be limited. It can't be a 1 hour interview for sure, only a 20-minute interview. And then after the survey is launched, we will have to reach out to clients. There has to be flexibility on in terms of screening. So sometimes migrating from offline to online also means that we have to overrepresent savvy high-end consumers. There are no benchmarks for online as of now, so we have to create new norms and benchmarks ahead of the study, and we obviously get much more consumer verbatims and photos and videos to enrich the dashboard. Particularly in qualitative, a lot of planning has to go in the background. Like I said before, we always recommend after COVID situation, we recommend a mixture of online and offline for best enriched output. Combination of methodology is something that you must think of, not just one kind of way of speaking to consumers, a combination of depths and groups, tasks and conversations, ethnography followed by interviews. All of these help much richer and robust insight. Finally, word of caution, expected the unexpected. We are all moving to this unfamiliar territory. Clients, consumers, us as researchers in Indonesia, it's all a little unfamiliar for all of us, although the methodology itself is quite time tested and proven. But please bear in mind that there could be hiccups and we must improvise, course correct, and importantly, be involved and learn from one project to another. All right, quiz. Yeah, I think we got your responses. We will publish those responses a bit later. For now, I think we're just rushing against the time because it's going to close in a few minutes. Mahesh, do we have any important questions and answers that you want to address right now before we close? Mahesh is able to hear me. All right, it looks like Mahesh is offline for some strange reason. What I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your time. We will certainly answer all your questions. We'll get back to you separately, each one of you with your answers to the questions that you've raised. Plus, we will send you a copy of the presentation as well as the recording so that you can refer to it at a later time. Thank you very much.